Hey, people, this is episode 241. And on this episode, we have a returning host, Thomas Jane Hummel, and I don't think that's his middle name, and of course, myself and Bobcast Jay, and we talk about a lot of stuff, and a little bit of warning, we talk really a lot about AEW right in the middle, which is what we tend to do when Tom comes on the episode. But that's okay. We also talk a little bit about Ted Lasso, a little bit about the TV show Heels. We talk about Dave Chappelle. We talk about a whole lot of stuff. But we started this thing, and something I want to talk to you about is I need you to do me a big favor. I need you to rush over to 1816 South Glenstone Avenue in Springfield, Missouri, and go to Prehistoric Brewing. One-time, multiple-time guest of the show, one-time podcast host, and real-life friend, Charlie, has his brewery along with Keith, and then, of course, their significant others place a role in it too. But anyway, they have a very good brewery that I finally, way overdue, got to go to this past weekend for the first time, and we talk about it on the episode, and I really want you guys to go. That's Prehistoric Brewing Company. That's at 1816 South Glenstone Avenue in Springfield, Missouri. You'll love the beer. You'll get drunk. What more can you need? Other than that, the only thing else I want to pump is look up on Facebook, Aaron Conaway, author. He's at an event. He does a Halloween YouTube horror watch. He does stuff every year for Halloween on YouTube, and it's really cool, and I want you to go check that out. We got some things coming in the hopper in terms of the PC Bombcast and stuff that may involve Aaron and Daniel and things like that. I might be spilling the beans just a little too early, but it also paints myself in the corner and forces me to get going on it. So be on the lookout for some things in the works from us, but also go check out his YouTube channel and see what he's got cooking for Halloween. Because as you hear this, it'll be at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, maybe even tonight. I don't know when you're listening to this. Just know that he does have a Halloween event coming up on October 15th on the YouTubes. Anyway, I guarantee that this episode will have something for everybody and have something that everybody hates. What more do you need out of a podcast? So when the bomb goes off, you will hear it right about now. Oktoberfest. I've got one of the big Poloners there, Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
And because it came for $9 inside a big glass beer stein, and the can fit perfectly in it, and I'm a sucker for a package deal when it comes to beer. So I bought it. But I do want to say we are back, and I wanted to keep on the topic of beer, but before we get to the topic of beer, I do want to say it's always a fun surprise for me and Jay when reoccurring guest Tom Hummel joins the podcast.
Have I gotten back to reoccurring cast member yet?
You're not even reoccurring guest.
I was like, God, when was the last time I was on? I was like, this hasn't been that long. 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Was it 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's right before football.
Oh, okay.
It was opening weekend for college
that makes
football.
sense. Well, that's the problem, too, is when you start judging things by the time frame of pro football. For instance, football started not too long ago, and you sneeze, and now we're in week 6.
Yep.
It's like, it doesn't make sense. As I was looking at my projections for, like, Sunday, you got to go a week ahead. Mm-hmm. I was like, wait a minute, it's not going to be week 6. And then I did the math. I'm like, oh, fuck, it is going to be week 6. Yeah. Half the season. Not really, but, we're getting there.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. I always forget how much I miss fantasy football, but I did have an event since last time I was on the show. I went to my first NFL game in person since the Rammies left in 2015.
Oh, really?
Yes, I broke my Arrowhead cherry.
Oh.
That sounded kind of vulgar and dirty.
That sounded both racist and filthy.
Now, have you guys been to Arrowhead for a game before?
Many times.
Okay,
yeah.
many times.
I lived in KC, and before that was Lamar, and that was a normal trek.
I will say, pros, loudest outdoor stadium I've ever been in.
By far.
Just a fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I mean, the club level helped. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Cons, everything before and after the game. Getting in and out, horrible.
It's horrible. Kaufman and Arrowhead are perfectly set up for tailgating.
But that's the thing, like, the tailgating isn't like Mizzou tailgating, which, by the way, good to see you again, Jay.
Yeah.
We ran into each other at the Mizzou tailgate, but I think of tailgating with tents and lots of food. The tailgating I saw at Arrowhead was just people drinking out of their car. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was not fancy at all. Like, down dirty.
So maybe you where it depends on the part of the parking lot you are, but
That's fair.
You see people with like the buses and the setup and the carpets and the grilling and stuff. Not jumping through tables like I say in Buffalo.
No green man suit.
Yeah, but I've seen some elaborate tailgating schemes, and the thing is, what you got to understand too is when I say you might not have been in the right spot of the parking lot, that parking lot is gigantic.
That's true.
And people stay and tailgate throughout the entire game and just watch the game from outside.
I did not see any of that. So I was on the south side of Arrowhead, where they
we could
filtered
still
me
be
through.
in recovery mode. You know what I mean? Or people may not be back to fully tailgating. I don't know.
Sure.
It seems like a sport where people don't give a fuck.
That's true.
They were in Columbia.
No.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to ask you, how high up did you sit in Arrowhead?
I was in club level, so I was in the middle. So I got nice air conditioning, private, all that. It was pretty swanky.
The good thing about NFL or football in general is even if you sit all the way up a nosebleed, you just have a good view of the whole game. But when you get up, I have seen many a drunk people eat shit and go face first down those stairs. That is as steep as they allow a stadium to be.
It did not look fun. Like I was
It's
looking
scary. The walking those steps sober is scary.
I was watching people go up the steps, and I was gassed. I was like, "Oh, that's
It's like it feels like a ladder. I mean, it's that steep. In fact, that's a good segue to the crazy section, the spirit section of our MLS stadium. Is the steepest that they will allow in MLS stadiums.
Oh, I did not hear that. Okay, that's wild.
So that all looks like they're close to the action when they're banging their drums and stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay.
They say that way when people do have drums, it won't limit views of people behind because it's so. But it's like 33 and a third degree. I mean, but the way those seats are lined up at MLS is it's the big poured concrete, benches.
Yeah.
Where it's Arrowhead, it's the old metal benches, and it's just steep, like what feel like 6-inch wide steps.
Sure.
Scary as shit.
I did enjoy coming into the stadium, seeing about 12 to 15, I assume to be Native Americans protesting the Chiefs' name. And
See, I never saw that in the whole time I was there.
And saying the name was racist, and then going into the stadium and seeing spray painted in the end zones, NFL against racism. I really enjoyed that. I just tickled me.
Yeah, and I'm all for, sensitivity to people's needs and stuff, and we'll in the Throw It to Missy segment we're going to hit on that a little bit. But I mean, at this point, you got rid of the Redskins, which was clearly offensive.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that.
Chiefs, I don't know. I think it's like
that
would be like a military person getting mad because someone's the admirals.
Well, I was
Yeah.
surprised. They only did the tomahawk chop twice.
It's never been a lot throughout.
Okay.
It's never been like the
Florida
Atlanta
State or
Braves,
Braves, yeah,
when they
okay.
were just all game, every game.
Who are back to doing it?
Yeah. I mean, you can't stop
No.
40,000 people in Arrowhead, 80,000
Sure.
people from doing what they want to do. But I do want to jump into the episode, and the first thing I brought, because you mentioned popping your Arrowhead cherry, I'm going to talk about popping, finally, much delayed, my prehistoric cherry. Because over the weekend, when I was in Springfield, Missouri, friend of the show,
okay,
former
yeah.
podcast host, I finally got to go to Prehistoric Brewing for Charlie. He typically he works a lot. He's still working his day job, and he's working the brewery. So, and on Saturdays, he gets out of there early. He was kind enough to wait for me and Missy, and then a friend of ours, one of the parents from the team, went. And I don't want to make it seem like it was the most elaborate thing in the world. He gave us the tour, which is essentially here's the main room and here's the brewing room.
Sure.
But it was cool to see his setup, and he did let us try some. He's got a beer called Apex, which is everything's dinosaur themed or.
Yeah.
Harry Potter theme on some of them.
Okay.
But he does have one called...
Now, what did Randy Orton think of the Apex beer?
It didn't say Predator, but I feel like every time I take a drink, he should have gave me the RKO
That's
out of
right.
nowhere. But it was awesome to drink that. That's one of his most popular ones. He was only going to do it one off, and then he was only going to do it one time a year, but now it's so popular he's going to do it a couple times probably.
Yeah.
I tell you this, his beers are good. Here's the problem with his beers, and this will be a compliment to him because he even told me, he goes, I like to take the ABV of my beers and hide it inside the taste. I don't want you to know you're drinking a 14% beer.
Yeah.
And I can tell you,
cool.
I had a 14% Apex, and I had like the butter beer, the Harry Potter butter beer clone that he has.
Yeah.
8-9%. You could drink them all day without knowing that you're drinking those high ABV beers. So, yeah, that's a good thing. Way to hang your hat on that. but it's a bad thing for your patrons to be able to walk out of the bar.
Sounds like the RKO is going to lead to a few DWIs.
That's right. That's exactly right. But it was.
Do they do to go?
He does. He has some growlers.
Yeah.
He said, and he has some of the crowlers, the 16 ounce.
Yeah.
He said right now the problem is sourcing those materials.
Yeah.
Oh,
he said
sure.
the biggest problem in general right now he says he'll come up with a recipe, and then he'll see if he can get the ingredients for
Yeah.
it. And he, he said this, and I believe him, is by all accounts right now, he's doing things that the other breweries in Springfield aren't doing. Certainly, like not Springfield Brewing Company, which is and Mother's.
Yeah.
Mother's, which is the big one. And, he and I kind of talked about Mother's, and I said, people, before you lose your shit in St. Louis, trust me, Mother's was, when it first opened, that first 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years at least, was awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like their beers aren't quite as good. Like Three Blind Mice is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
And he goes, what's funny, you mentioned that 4 years after they opened, they got rid of their head brewer and they brought in a new brewer.
Oh.
And I was like, well, maybe that's the thing. I mean, somebody else's recipe, somebody else comes in and wants to do variants on them or change them up a little bit. I don't know. But, Charlie said there was not a brewery in Springfield that was doing a triple, and he did a triple.
How many other breweries are there besides the 3 that you mentioned?
There were at least 4 or 5 that I was going to think about hitting that were close to me.
Okay.
And I think there might be a couple more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's expanded a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 8, 9?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Something
so.
like that. I
Wow.
mean, per capita, pretty good.
Yeah.
Does it include like the Branson area?
No,
Okay.
that's Springfield and
And really, I don't think anything's in Branson. Because when we went down there a couple years ago, I looked.
there's one of those like Gordon Bursch or
Yeah.
something, which are global brews, which are chains that
Yeah.
are quote unquote microbrews.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyway, so he's, and we'll talk a little more when we're off air, but I'll tell you this. I asked him how business was doing, and he goes, we get momentum, and then another scare happens, and then he goes, immediately after a news story, it's a ghost town for like a week or 2.
Okay.
And then he goes, and then I feel like we're getting momentum, and I get a packed house on Fridays, Saturdays, Thursdays, and he goes, he says he's had the most up peaks and valleys in the last year. He said the peaks and valleys have continued because there was obviously after he opened in COVID, there was a slow build up. He said, but since things have quote unquote opened up, it literally coincides with whatever the major news story is about COVID, and then he'll slow down for a while.
I wonder when everything is kind of faded, and it might be early 2024 now before life is officially normal again. Has the microbrewery fad, not
the
microbrewery
bubble burst.
It's a
We've
bubble
been
burst
like-
for opening breweries, not necessarily craft brewing, but opening them. Has that bubble burst? I kind of feel like it has, but maybe
I get why you would say that, but when you look around us immediately with Crossroads has opened up, and I don't think that it has.
has any closed?
I don't think so. I think the last one...
Nationally, yes.
Yeah, nationally, yes.
Nationally, some of the big dogs like Left Hand, which was it Left Hand?
No,
Not Left Hand.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it was
Tallgrass.
Tallgrass, which was a good one that made Buffalo Sweat, and they closed.
That was out of Kansas, right?
Yeah, and but I don't. I mean, especially like in St. Louis, I think this wasn't common to St. Louis. I think a lot of people started allowing more to go.
Yeah.
Yes,
And-
and that's to stay.
Yeah, that is St. Louis past
And
that.
I gotta give. Well, and Mike Parson, and to his credit, I'm not the biggest fan in the world. He kind of was a proponent for keeping that alive with to-go cocktails and things like that.
Yeah, why take it away only to have to do it again at some point? You know what I mean?
And I mean, some places are doing delivery now, like narrow
Yeah.
gauges in the area. Good News was for a while too.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, because I had them drop off beer quite a few times when everything was locked down.
Oh wow.
They also dropped off pizza kits, which was pretty fun. Kids
Pizza
like
kits?
That. Yeah.
So like making your own pizza at home?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
They give you the dough and all the ingredients, and you just
That
make it
is a
yourself.
great idea. I kind of, we had a
That's Papa Murphy's. They're just jumping on Papa Murphy's bandwagon, you know?
Yeah.
we had a food truck in our neighborhood a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I kind of missed it when they did that for like every week for like a 2-month
Yeah.
period last spring. We had a new food truck in the neighborhood.
Well, they're back. I know it's not in your neighborhood, but like the Foundry has food truck weekends and stuff and lunches now where people they just drive them inside to the
Yeah.
city Foundry. And
Have you guys walked around there yet?
Not yet.
I've done it once, but when it wasn't anything hopping. it'll be exciting when MLS and everything's going down there. That's going to be awesome.
I went down there once just to walk around. The only thing open was that cafeteria with like 20 different little restaurants.
Yeah.
But the movie theater's not open yet.
No.
I don't think it is.
By the way, I don't know if you saw, they're going to mimic kind of a little bit of Ballpark Village for the MLS stadium. They're doing the parking garage, which will have retail space and restaurant space underneath, but also seats invisible into the stadium on top of the parking garage.
I did not know.
That's going to be pretty cool.
Very cool.
It's a miniature Ballpark Village.
That Cortex area is really bumping.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
St. Louis downtown is looking cooler.
Did you hear that we're getting a Target now?
Downtown?
Mm-hmm. Kind of in that Cortex area.
Yeah. Which, like,
where the new Topgolf is going to go.
Yeah. Which, so, speaking of Topgolf, I'll come back to that in Springfield. But one of the things my daughters have always said walking around. Actually, the last time I went downtown with my oldest daughter when we went and saw Harry Styles, she's like, St. Louis is a little cooler than I remember downtown. And both of them said, but it's not like the other cities where you got like Targets and stuff downtown. That's what we need. We need it to look.
Yeah.
But across the street from our hotel in Springfield was a Big Shots Golf.
Okay.
It's a Topgolf, only 80 to 90% of the size, and without the cool light-up holes and stuff. I didn't go in, but I had to look it up online. They don't have the same technology, but they've patterned the look, and they're keeping their overhead a little lower, I bet.
Sure.
But it's still a drunken good time to go whack golf balls.
Oh, absolutely.
But Big Shots Golf, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And the fence looks exactly the same. I'm like, you couldn't have, come on. But I'll be honest with you, it looked like it's a lot easier to hit it out of that place than it is Topgolf, even though you see people left and right hit it out of Topgolf. But that said, let's get out of that. I know we all have stuff to talk about, but I think since the three of us are here, and with the caveat or with the knowledge that this will be a spoiler warning for people, I think it's time to put a bow on Ted Lasso Season 2.
I have not seen it.
Oh my God. We can't do it then.
It's been spoiled, so feel free to.
Still hard to do.
Yeah.
You really just shot.
I was like, do I tell them
wind
just
out
act like I
myself.
saw it?
I could have swore you texted. That's where I thought we were safe.
No, I mean, I know all the major plot points. Unfortunately, we were in Columbia this weekend, and so my wife and I weren't able to watch it. I wanted to watch it Sunday night. She decided to fall asleep instead. And it's like, all right, well, Ted Lasso is the most important show going right now, so spoiler, I have been spoiled, so feel free to talk about it.
Well, I want to ask your thoughts, Jay, and then I'm going to bring it back to something I've talked about in the last couple of weeks on the show, but what were your thoughts of the season finale?
I thought it was great. I mean, it tied up what they were doing in the season and set it up for next season for the Return of the Jedi season.
Well, and that's that was the one thing I have here, Empire Strikes Back, and Ted Lasso and has used that, or Jason Sudeikis, whatever, had used that analogy, and a lot of time throughout the season, I think some of the criticisms of the episode were like, we don't get it. There's no bad guy. And I think we talked about it. All you had to do was wait.
Yeah.
Because the payoff was great. And I thought the season was great. I thought the Christmas episode was unbelievable.
So to go wrestling, it was a slow heel turn.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that heel turn. And I want to talk about the, not wrestling per se, but maybe a little bit of lore, fantasy realm. Missy caught onto it really early in the season, but she's like, oh, so in order to be a villain, you have to have white hair. Because Nate's hair slowly changed colors.
Interesting.
And then when you see him, a big spoiler.
Yeah.
But when you see the final scene,
he's in the black suit.
It's stark white.
Yeah.
It is as white, as gray white as you can get.
I thought it was changing throughout the episode too.
It was the season. You could go back and see some, but boy, I don't know what the creative decision other than meta fan service or genre fan service. You know what I mean? Just to give him a new look. There were some like cool things that I read after about it, like how the Whisper was the exact same setup as the Whisper at the funeral from Rupert into Nate's ear.
Yeah.
So it started there, and there was it was kind of I enjoyed it as a whole, the whole season, but I think for the people that really didn't like it, I wonder where they're at now. And I'll tell you what I was going to bring back to something I've talked about, my hatred for Bleeding Cool of late.
Yeah.
They praised it. One of the few things they praised, like, Ted Lasso season 2 has been an enjoyable but very slow burn.
Yeah.
That culminated in a complete structure fire. That's what it turned into, like just a blazing inferno the way it ended.
Yeah.
And the way it gave us that dark and set up that, empire, the Emperor and Vader.
Yeah. Though they could do it with that because it's not comic book related, so.
Yeah.
Well, look, and I know all the major plot points, but, Ted Lasso, if we're going to give season 1 a 5 out of 5.
Yep.
This is probably a 4 out of 5, maybe a 3.75 out of 5. They had a couple misfires. I don't still believe in the Sam and Rebecca storyline. It's kind of icky the way it went down. Like, I like both characters. I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but there's a power dynamic in 2021. It's kind of like...
So you kicked us off there with the rating. I'll go ahead and give mine. I was 4 all season, 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And I'm a 4.5 out of 5 now.
Yeah, I was probably going to go 4.5.
And I get what you're saying about the Sam and Rebecca, but the characters are so... I enjoy characters so much. And again, the payoff that Sam gave us in that final episode made it all worth it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted's line, I don't think he was talking to me.
Yeah.
It's great. That, by the way, like that Prince or whatever he was, that character has been a bit weird for the last 2-3 episodes, and the payoff for him was so great.
Yeah,
I believe the actor's name is Sam Anderson.
Yes, yeah.
And I started watching The Detroiters.
I haven't watched that yet.
He's Tim Robinson's best friend. That guy's hilarious.
Oh, that guy is super. I've seen him in...
Have you guys watched I Think You Should Leave?
I didn't love it as much as you, but I also haven't watched season 2 yet.
I didn't see it.
It's pretty good.
It's like we talked about it on the show. It's some sketches that Lauren wouldn't take, and he decided they ended up making. There's a reason some of it. I'm with what I am with on Tom is the things that when I laughed at them, I laughed really hard. But the things I didn't, I was like, well, there's a reason they didn't make it.
Yeah.
It's like watching Vladimir Guerrero go up and write sketches. When he connects, he connects.
Yeah.
When he misses, holy shit does he miss.
Yeah, that's accurate. But that guy Sam, he's been a tertiary sidekick in a lot of stuff. He was in most recently that Mark Wahlberg movie not Mark Wahlberg. What was the one where the time travel paradox on Amazon Prime?
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about? Where
with Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt, and he's good in that. That dude's good in that. He's the comic relief in that.
Yeah.
Where Chris Pratt's a serious, military guy. But you're right. He's great in everything he's in. But his meltdown in this is epic.
Yes.
It's beyond. I'm gonna buy your childhood home and shit in every room and then burn it to the ground. It's gold. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Because like Empire, a little better than even I think Empire did. It left us on what could have been a very good note, a high note for Richmond.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing for Richmond. But the betrayal that Nate did was so great, and what he ended up doing was such a symbolic knife to the heart that you're like, oh, as great as this is, there's this big, dark, billionaire luminous cloud that is a little scary for him.
I hope they don't do it, but don't have season 3 be where those two face off for the championship of the Premier League.
No, I've been thinking long and hard about that too. They can't do it, and what
they could do is the FA Cup final.
So because they did well in the FA Cup this year.
Yeah, that would work.
And that makes sense because that's a winnable thing.
It is.
The Premier League is not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which 90% of the audience, Ted Lasso probably has no idea about. But they can be like, oh, they won, they're the best.
Where I have faith in Ted Lasso is they've really held back from how good Richmond is. It's not like it's the Cleveland Indians from Major League that goes on to go to the World Series. It's, they play in a believable world where they know they're the underdog, and every time they do good, it's followed by being brought back down to earth.
Yeah.
Soccer will do to you.
Yep.
So I'm excited about it. You said 4.5. I said 4.5. Any final thoughts before we go on to whatever you guys brought?
One other thing I liked about it was the kind of time jump at the end too, because it's like 3 weeks later,
that
and you're
was
like,
really interesting.
Yeah.
Give me one of the intergalactic warrior or whatever. I think tall one. I believe. Thank you.
The way they did that, though, is really interesting because it just kind of progressed every one of them. I'll take one of the ones.
Well, what was cool about it, and as me and Missy were sitting there watching it, it was like 3 days later, and then it was like 3 weeks later, and it was like, well, now they got to keep going to show us where it's going. And we were all building up to that final one, and certainly after the second one, it's coming.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Here's the other final thought I had on it too, and I'm glad they didn't do it, not for any reason other than it would have been complicated. There was a very brief moment where I thought, well, Ted and the therapist are going to fall in love.
Yeah.
And Missy was like, I'm waiting for that, and I'm like, I'm glad that didn't happen too.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need Ted falling in love with anybody. He's,
I think he's got a connection in chemistry with Sassy.
Sassy. Oh yeah, and I love Sassy.
Yeah.
Yeah. MILF, I guess, a dime piece. Yeah. But I tell you, the show, they could give him a love interest. They could not, and it'll still be great. They gave a lot of other characters. I said it from season 1 to Missy. Why is Roy not with the teacher? Well, that seems like that's going to happen.
That's what I said too. Yeah. Keely ends back up with Jamie Tart, and
I hope she doesn't. I hope Keely just goes on to dominate the world of PR. She doesn't need either one of them, and I think that's kind of where Roy was going with it.
We'll see.
Or maybe she'll end up with Nate after that kiss.
You don't need to manufacture drama when you've got a good couple that has chemistry in TV just to make it, dramatic or whatever. I think it's lazy writing.
And all of they don't have to. And I think that they can avoid it if they want to. I think that they gave the love affairs to the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many fun characters on this. The German guy this season that had nothing last season, he was great. I loved his line. When he spoke, why would I lie? I never lie. It was pretty great. Anyway, I've got one more main topic, or two really, to see if you guys don't bring it up. But let's go on to see what you brought to the table today.
I really brought nothing.
Then let's go to Tom.
Let's see. Two things, both kind of somewhat related in the world of wrestling.
Okay.
We had the Ted Lasso finale, which I will hopefully watch here soon. You know all the plot points as we talked about. A show called Heels had its season maybe series finale. Hopefully not, because it hasn't been renewed yet.
I have it on good authority. 6 weeks ago, we talked about this show, but now it's done for the season.
Yep. Ratings, I guess, were not good. Apparently, Starz has become more of a African American premiere channel. But
is that something we can say?
I mean, I got the Starz subscription. I need to cancel it now. And like what other shows you might be interested in? Like these are all like all black casts. Like I'm sure the shows are good. I'm not going to say they aren't, but
every Medea movie's on here.
Yeah.
Well, Medea, boo, Halloween. I mean, perfect timing, right? I give it a 4 out of 5. The what's his name? Stephen
Amell.
Yeah. Obviously, love for wrestling in that. The hero in it, Chris Bauer, I believe his name is, best known for his work as Frank in season 2 of The Wire. The guy is the longshoreman who runs kind of the main character. Hilarious in it. It's kind of a Ric Flair type character. And without spoiling too much, they develop a female character in it who ended up being the best character of the whole season. So I would say if you have the chance, Starz has deals all the time with, you bought a new iPhone or whatever, you get 30 days or 7 days free.
And it seems
definitely check it out if you like wrestling.
And it seems like every year around the end of the year, they do like 30 days for free, and they allow you to go to their on demand while they're doing it. So,
See, I think they have 1 week free right now, so that'd be plenty of time to knock it out.
It's, the things I didn't like, some of the stories from, it's brother versus brother. One is a heel on the show and kind of somewhat face in real life, and then vice versa. A little too much manufactured drama, a little too CW11, if you will. To give
Stephen Amell, so he's typecasted in studio, not on screen.
Yeah, and
or both.
A little too much like, oh, hey, we need to get fans in the show that aren't familiar with wrestling. So, like, this is what kayfabe means. And, like, almost every title of every episode is a wrestling term. Like, the finale was called Double Turn.
Oh, they pulled off the Double Turn, most famously done by Steve Austin and Bret Hart.
Yes.
Actually, the definition of a double turn.
The best side character in the show was one of the showrunners, Michael O'Malley, who is always a treat.
Yeah. The Rick.
The Rick.
Better known as the Rick.
Yeah.
Burt Hummel's father in Glee, I believe. He's just a delight every time he shows up.
I do like that guy.
He plays kind of like a Paul Heyman type character.
I was going to ask. I was going to assume he was either a Paul Heyman or Bobby Heenan.
He's like a rival promotion. So if you like,
do they have a Jim Cornette?
No, not really. They don't really have a lot of managers.
Like instead of a tennis racket, it's modern day. He's got a pickleball racket.
That's pretty good. But that cameo appearances from CM Punk.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
What's his face?
I don't know. Chris Jericho.
Mick Foley.
Oh, Mick Foley.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, he's about to have a match coming up soon, I think.
Really?
Yeah, him and Britt Baker. They've been going at it on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a fake beef because they really like each other a lot.
Yes.
But I love that. What I think is happening is Mick's going to get some on-screen time in AEW at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who else hasn't?
So not really.
This might be a weird question, but would it be okay for my kids? Like, is there nudity and stuff in it?
Yes, there is.
I was like,
Okay.
Tom, this might be a weird question, but do you watch it naked? Yes, Jay, that is a weird question.
The girl character, like if there was a breakout star, and I don't know the actress's name, but she does a fantastic. Like she starts out as one of the brothers' valets, and then she kind of shines on her own as like she can wrestle. She takes her top off.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a little bit of titular nudity.
Yeah.
So okay for me, but not my kids.
Yes, exactly. And if you want to wear your pants around your ankles, no one will judge you.
So I got to ask, since the segue seems perfect for you, what was the other wrestling topic that you had?
Well, hey, I don't know if you watched this Casino Battle Royale ladder match on Wednesday night last week.
I know you were getting.
I may be wearing the man's shirt right now. But
I was going to wear my CM Punk shirt, but I do have my sticker on the fridge.
nice. Hangman Adam Page has come back and won a chance to wrestle Kenny Omega at a time yet to be determined.
Interwebs are mixed on it.
Yes.
They are mixed, and I think they're valid. Mm-hmm. I think had this happened before Punk and Daniel Bryanson and Adam Cole, this would have been a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the timing is weird to put him right back in the title hunt.
There's two kinds of fans who watch AEW. There are AEW diehards like myself who love Hangman. Like, I've heard some people saying on the Twitters.
Yeah, the Twitter sphere.
10 years from now, they will call that the Hangman pop. And it was one of the loudest.
It was a big one. Yeah, it was a big one.
But then you also have just every wrestling
the
fan.
smart marks.
Yeah. I still like every kind of wrestling promotion who I would agree with you. Just like, Hangman's not as over as you guys think he is in the overall wrestling community. The casual fan still is not going to buy into this. If somebody left wrestling 4 years ago and you try to explain to them the Hangman character, well, what's he like? Well, on the surface, he's stone cold, but moves like Shawn Michaels. He drinks a lot, but he's also got a depression issue, which makes it the nerdy indie fan loves.
He's the angst-ridden cowboy. His character.
The anxious millennial cowboy.
Yeah, and I get the appeal. I don't think he's as over as they think he is on the outside of the world, but I think inside AEW, he is as over as they think. Yeah. But I think that they've done a really good job of doing some long-form programs like old school wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think that it's of no fault of anyone. He went out for a while, for those that don't know, because he had a child in real life.
Yes.
It did in wrestling world. This happens. It lost some steam.
It did,
and I think their hope is that I do think it's for steam coming back. I do think that also just because he won the battle royal, they can slow play his title shot. They don't have to make the next pay-per-view his title shot if they don't want. There can certainly be a screw job. There could be something that puts him back down at the bottom where he gets certainly his old friend Adam Cole, baby.
I will guarantee you. I won't guarantee you. I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to do. Triple threat match at Full Gear for the title with Bryan Danielson,
the American Dragon,
who will probably turn heel. Hangman will beat both, and then their hope will be he will be over like Rover times 10. I don't know if it'll work, but that's kind of reading the rumor mill and seeing how things. I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, which is
good. I think
good.
it's a mistake. I think Hangman should have his moment in the sun with just against Kenny.
And see, I think they brought him back too early for that because everything has been so big, especially after the non-title match that Danielson and...
So, that match quality aside, which was off the charts.
It was very good.
Is Daniel Bryanson's pop not quite as loud as you expected it?
A little bit.
I think it's got a lot to do with his music isn't as exciting as Adams and as Punks. And I think that they love him, but I think in terms of the mic and the personality is nowhere near as big as those other two.
I think the problem is the AEW fan is the indie/AEW fan. And
even though he was an indie darling, it's been
but that was a long time ago. And that's why Hangman gets the...
And NXT was still an indie product, which is why Adam Cole gets that pop still.
Yeah.
And since Vince actually, by squashing old school NXT, made those guys more popular that have left before this new NXT 2.0 has came up. So, by extension, Vince has created his own worst enemy, and it's as big as an enemy as WCW was. There's even talk that they're going to go to Monday night.
We'll see. I think Tony Khan, though, has to walk a very thin line because he wants to bring in probably 500,000 more people into that show. To do that, he needs to champion Danielson, Punk, Braun Strowman probably at some point, Bray Wyatt at some point. However, if he does too much of that, he will alienate his loyal fan base and will get pissed off and maybe go to watch MLW or go do something.
Even alienate the young wrestlers that have been coming up through there.
Yeah, I watched MLW recently. By the way, it's a fun product.
I've heard good things.
It's on after Dark Side of the Ring every week.
It is interesting to Jay's point, though. You do hear on all the podcasts how it's a big love fest over there. I think there's cracks in the armor. You had Brian Cage's wife about a month ago pop off that he was getting buried. There's the rumors of the Elite and having some dysfunction with Cody. Which, by the way, Roads to the Top, so bad. It's so bad.
No, it's good when it's just the Cody
wrestler.
and the wrestlers.
Yeah.
It's bad when it's Brandy and the wrestlers.
She bad.
Or
Cody,
Brandy and the family.
Brandy, and Brandy and the women's wrestlers. It all seems fake.
Yeah.
So, Cody, it will be interesting because he's come out and said, I will retire before I go heel.
Yeah, but I think that's all.
I hope it is. Because Cody would be so over
Well,
as a heel right now.
Cody and Brandy were the biggest heels, not in the United States, but the biggest heels around the world when they were in New Japan and stuff. They were everything they did. They had to get them personal security because fans wanted to kill them outside.
Yeah.
And Brandy's got the attitude for that.
Yeah.
By the way, not a great wrestler, Brandy. No. So for her to be making such a big deal out of it, it Roads to the Top. I liked that first couple episodes, especially because of the wrestling. Sammy Guevara and the Darby Allin stuff was cool as shit. Ricky Starks, I thought that was very interesting. That was my favorite part.
You know, and MJF brought up the other night where the pillars are him, Jungle Boy, Darby, and Sammy because they're all 28 and under.
They're the young,
homegrown
guy.
Hangman's 30, which is definitely no spring.
He just had such a good career before he got there, so that's why they don't consider him in that group.
Right. I think Ricky Starks is right there with
Ricky
those
Starks
guys.
can perform.
And I think he's only 28, maybe?
Yeah. And that promo in that episode that Roads to the Top kind of spotlighted, that was pretty good.
It was.
That vignette of him driving in his car, as I was watching it, I was like, holy fuck, they're turning him face.
The match of him against Cage was pretty good the other night.
Yeah, it was.
And it was his first match back, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks, Hangman.
Yeah. I do trust what they're doing. The fear I have is, like you said, is that getting too many wrestlers on the roster. I know the Forbidden Door helps that. Gives them a place and an outlet to go. Braun Strowman certainly seems to want to go back to WWE. Mm-hmm. There's rumors that he's his biggest campaigner to do that. I don't think he necessarily wants to go AEW because I think that he looks at AEW and says, well, they're going to have me lose to a guy that's around 200 pounds at some point.
I think there's a specific type of person that works in that locker room, and I
don't think Braun's it.
I don't think Braun's it. I think you have to be an independent guy who knows all the boys and girls in that locker room to fit in. I don't think Bray Wyatt is a shoe-in there.
I don't think he's a shoe-in by any means. I think there's a lot of champions in that locker room for Bray Wyatt. People that are saying we want him in here, but
and also
You just can't have everyone that comes in a title contender.
I think, honestly, the only two major guys over there in WWE that will come in that will, maybe shake things up, Steen is going over there at some point.
Yeah.
And Sammy's going over there at some point. And after that, is there anybody that fits the AEW locker room? I don't think so.
I mean,
maybe Finn.
If they want to, I'd like to see Finn over there. But if they wanted to do
they
what
got big plans apparently for him in WWE again. He just beat Cesaro. I know he lost as the Demon finally.
Yeah.
But it was the most work. In fact, the Young Bucks said, AEW, our rings don't break because they change their bio all the time.
God, they got some good heat going.
They do.
They do. But go ahead.
But I was going to say, I mean, if they want to bring another veteran in to work with the young guys, I mean, I could see Edge coming over at some point after,
especially with
this current run is
brother,
done.
quote unquote brother,
cousin.
Yeah, whatever it is.
That's an interesting one. Does he? Well,
to your point too, though, back to the guys that are there.
that's an interesting one, Copeland.
CM Punk seems content with just helping young guys right now.
Yeah, he would just sit in the mid
At
card.
some point, though, the crowd is either going to get tired of it, or force them to put him in a title picture, or they're going to just lose interest in him wrestling guys with no stakes.
Yeah, he's got about 6 months, I think, probably before that gets.
And it also could be that he's just getting back in shape, and that's why he's doing this, and he wants this talent to get over.
Yeah.
It could be a combination. He certainly has looked better each week. He put his tights back on,
Yeah.
I think there is a problem with AEW for the overall presentation that if it's not the elite and that kind of storyline, is there anything else that you're super interested in seeing each week?
Well, yes, there is for me. I
Okay.
love Miro.
Which I think they'll give him about a month off.
And
then he'll come back with Lana and he'll be over like
what I
Roman.
don't like, and this is going to sound like blasphemy because I like their performance and I like each person individually, I don't like the hastily thrown together factions like Christian, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus. I wish that they just had better stories other than forcing them together in the story. And
So I read an article, it was a transcript of a Jericho podcast, and he said the reason they do that is they don't have enough TV time for everybody, but
absolutely
they want them on. So having these factions is a way to get these guys on, get them a little bit of mic time.
And unfortunately, Bo, it feels that way.
Yeah,
it
does.
You had a massive amount of steam with the Lucha Brothers and the Death Triangle winning the tag championships in the greatest tag match I've ever seen.
That was
Yeah.
crazy.
And then you kind of put them in a couple of matches that were good matches. They're always good matches. They did a good thing by giving them the Promo Azteca titles with them now.
Yeah,
they're carrying so they're the tag team equivalent of a belt collector. I love that, and I just love them in general. But there is some things that I do like. That said, there's things that I don't. I don't like Taz the Stable, even though I like members of Taz the Stable.
I was with you about 4 months ago. I'm into it now.
Yeah, I'm still not. I don't like his son.
I kind of like Hook.
He does nothing. I don't think there's not a.
But he's over with the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to have to wrestle somebody.
Yeah, you say we use the term "over with the crowd." He's over with the crowd until he gets exposed by not doing.
Which they're doing the right thing by not doing it.
He's kind of like Marco Stunt, though. I mean, he's just there. He doesn't even do dark
Marco
matches.
needs to go away.
Yeah.
Marco, they compare Marco to the old Spike Dudley of the Dudleys, but Spike really made impacts when Spike showed up.
He would wrestle too.
Yeah. And the Spike death drop was a thing.
Yeah.
I think the biggest disappointment since he's coming has been Matt Hardy.
Oh, so
his faction just seems thrown together.
That's a bad
big
one.
Time.
Yeah.
That's a bad one. Also, I don't like Dan Lambert's faction, by the way.
That's horrible.
Junior DeSantos is going to... I don't really agree with the way Jim Cornette said it, but I do agree with Jim Cornette that
throwing the sissy punches.
That Junior doesn't know. Now, the knee, the dark flat running knee from to Jericho from God, why can't I think of his name now? But he's only one of the greatest fighters in the history of MMA. But he did the running knee and knocked out Jericho. That looked good.
Yeah.
But Lambert sucked in Impact, and Lambert is a diehard wrestling fan, like a diehard. He wants to be great. It's just what you're doing is hurting your product by him coming in and saying they're not real fighters, and he has real fighters, because at some point those real fighters have to prove it, and then they don't look like they can do, like to Jim Cornette's point, what the wrestlers are doing. Now you're exposing the business. Now you're exposing Dan Lambert as being full of shit. And that doesn't make him a credible bad guy.
And then you have the Bart Gunn situation where they're going to go into some kind of non-wrestling match.
Because there's not a wrestler on the roster that could stand in the ring with Junior Dos Santos. There's not one.
Jake Hager thinks he could.
Yeah.
He definitely thinks he could.
Yeah, he thinks he could, but he would be against a legend who would light him up.
Yeah.
It's just the. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that. Back to Matt Hardy, though. So the delete... that thing was over in Impact.
Yeah.
I didn't find it as great as everybody else did.
It was funny for like 10 minutes.
And one thing that helped it, though, was Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
And
Brother Nero.
He's not there.
Now, he'll probably come over at some point.
If there's any miles left, they took a lot of flack for him for getting jobbed out from the internet and from critics. Well, now he's back on winning matches again. So,
well, how many times can he wrestle Damian Priest and Sheamus?
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we don't have to spend any more time. We spent a lot of time with AEW, but
I got one more quick faction question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Thoughts on the Dark Order? Because I really like.
He loves them.
I mean, I'm wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
I have a mark.
I liked them, but they just feel directionless. At least until...
Do you watch BTE?
No.
If you watch BTE, the Dark Order makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but see, that doesn't work for the on-screen thing because
It doesn't.
not everybody's watching it.
But my question to you is, what do you think the audience of AEW watches BTE? At least a third, probably.
Yeah, maybe. You might be right.
Yeah.
But I still don't think, again, going back to kind of the Hangman, Hangman's way more over to the mainstream world than I think the Dark Order
Oh,
is.
100%. Yeah. But, like, if you didn't watch BTE, you wouldn't, like, care about John Silver, and he is fucking hilarious.
He's
I love
my
him.
favorite.
He's my
on it.
favorite member.
great.
I just don't think the faction works.
Yeah.
And especially now
it does
that,
if you watch BTE.
you see, but
But you
that's
have to
the
watch
problem.
it, which
Yeah.
the casual fan would not do.
And
I mean, it's hard enough to watch Dark every week because it's only on YouTube.
I ain't watching that shit.
And they've already
but they
outed Preston
Yeah.
on Roads to the Top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, that was kind of like, they didn't even make a fuss about it.
Yeah.
And the internet did. Like, well, so I guess this gimmick is not, it's kind of dead in the water now.
So back to the Dark thing, though. I felt like I kind of had to try to watch it every once in a while because they always put the rankings up there and all these matches, and I'm like, I haven't seen this guy wrestle in 3 months. How is he 9-1?
Yeah.
Right. And I can't watch job matches. I don't have time for job matches. But I do have time for 20 minutes of BTE every Monday. I look forward to it. And there's a lot of hit or misses on that. The Young Bucks think they're way funnier than they really are. Mm-hmm. But the Dark Order is, like, Silver especially, hilarious.
The Young Bucks are super funny when they're being understated. Like their Twitter handles and some of their tweets. They're appropriately funny on screen right now because they're heels. Yeah. So anything that's a swing and a miss looks like they're egotistical heels.
I think Nick is way better than Matt, though, as far as how funny he is, how good he does promos, and how talented he is in the ring.
How bad are they? Are they going to like age Rock and Roll Express bad? Like their hairlines are going to get ugly at some point.
Well, Nick's is already bad.
It is already ugly, and you're either going to Hogan it up with your bandana,
or the headbands.
You're just going to shave that thing off. You better have a hair match, and Pentagon needs to, or Penta L.
My last plug for PT, the last 2 weeks they've done a skit each episode where Silver and Reynolds are trying to recruit Adam Cole into the Dark Order, and it is comedy gold.
That sounds fun.
What is it on? Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube,
Okay.
yeah, BT. I mean,
Being the Elite is what
Being the Elite, yeah. And they started it 5 years ago. I started episode 1 during the pandemic, which wasn't good for 20 episodes, just a travel blog.
Yeah.
But then they started doing storylines in it, and that's how I got to know Adam Cole, and they killed him off in BT, which is
baby
when he went to the NXT.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of Marty Scurll, which is not so great.
Yeah. Bobby Fish? Any Bobby Fish early on in it?
No.
Oh, because he's, Adam Cole's even mentioned Bobby Fish, has tweeted about Bobby Fish being in AEW now.
Yeah.
But let's get off of AEW. I do have two things that I wanted to bring to the table. One's obviously a kind of a downer and pretty dark, but I'm going to do it first because one will lead straight into my first throw it to Missy topic. But I do want to talk about, at least for a moment, who knew the biggest black eye in the history of the Raiders organization was going to be John Gruden?
Well, I don't know if that's true.
Who's worse than what John Gruden did?
Let me think about it.
While you're thinking about it,
Because I think it's hard to say when you're playing prisoner in the moment. I mean, who was that one like offensive lineman that like didn't show up for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that was he had anxiety problems and he was bipolar and that happened.
Yeah, I mean all the Al Davis shit in the 70s and 80s. I mean,
that played into what the Raiders were though.
Sure.
And the bad guys they recruited and the steroid use, which was rampant at the time, played into what they were. John Gruden checked every box that you could check in one story that offends the world right now.
Except for the meme that said the Jews.
The Jews, yeah, he left out the Jews.
But are you guys offended?
I'm not offended, but I recognize that, he's a piece of shit.
Is he?
Yeah, dude, he is.
I mean, if you overshadow Richie Incognito.
All right, here's I'll defend John Gruden a little bit here. Look, it's 2021. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that shit is not acceptable, and he should have been resigned, fired, whatever happened there. A lot of these emails and texts were from 2011 to 2015. The world has changed a little bit since then. I don't want people coming into my texts with my buddies where I'm cutting up and making fun of people.
Yeah, and that's true.
This was... Look, he had to go, but the NFL clearly did a hit job on him. They could say whatever they wanted to say today, like, no. You saw the emails. You saw Goodell getting called those names, which are inexcusable.
Yeah.
Anytime. Now, I don't want to excuse things from 10 years ago, but I think our listeners know the context of that stuff. Words I would say in 2011, I would not say today.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of. 2011, we were starting to get pretty sensitive already, and the words he used.
I would probably call my friends
a pussy. Yeah.
In 2011, I'd probably say the F word in 2011. I definitely use the R word in 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the difference. You said what you and your friends, and certainly stand-up comics, which is a throw to Missy topic I've got, will do that stuff. They say, you don't ever want to hear what comics say to comics.
Yeah.
Some of these things was not Gruden saying them to his friends. Some of these things were Gruden saying them to people before going into Monday Night Football prep. Some of this was stuff that he was saying using his professional outlet, his ESPN email, to their NFL email.
But it was a group, as far as I know, it was like an email chain of like 5 or 6 guys who were doing some work in blue and saying some vulgar shit, which it doesn't excuse it, but we all know it happens, that locker room talk. And it got exposed, whether the NFL wants to say or not, because he called Goodell and other high-ranking NFL officials those names, and they saw a way to fuck him over. And it doesn't make it right or wrong.
He also
but that's what
said
happened.
that they're said it's a bad look to be forcing people to draft a gay guy. They got no place in football. He also, if you excuse what he did, and I know this seems,
I'm not excusing what he did.
To not say that he's not bad for it is. First off, I think it's a network of bad people. Somebody should have stepped up that he worked with and said, dude, you got to cut that shit out. Then you also have to think that when Trump said grab her by the pussy, it's not that bad. Because it was also to a buddy in confidence. And it was equally as offensive to people. In fact,
and he kept his high-ranking job.
Yeah, because he had, his was a job where the people voted him in.
Yeah.
Gruden didn't have that luxury because it was I
see what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think that whole locker room talk has evolved kind of like technology in a way, more rapidly than us 40-year-old white guys can kind of wrap our heads around. The three of us know that shit's wrong, and have probably corrected our talks in our day-to-day lives of our buddies. As we've grown older, more mature, seeing that those words could hurt people, and also because they could get out, that would be bad for us. Selfishly, let's be honest. So it's an evolving thing. I'm not I understand why cancel culture is what it is, but I also think we have to put things in context, and we don't do that very well here.
No, I absolutely don't think we do. I think in this instance, though, that doesn't work for me. Because he was a very high-profile on-air talent for the NFL, and he was talking to other people in the NFL. And, yeah, the NFL is doing this, combing through these 65,000 emails to find these bad guys.
Which they were not trying to find him, for the record.
Yeah, they say they weren't, and I agree with you. There's where there's smoke, there's fire there. But he was the face of Monday Night Football. He was the quarterback guy. He signed a 10-year, $100 million highest coaching contract in the history of the NFL. If you're not smart enough to navigate all that and still say that shit in emails to other people in the NFL, maybe you're not the right guy for the job to begin with.
So I worked with a group of guys at a large global bank, and most of us got laid off in 2007. But at the time, we talked that way, but we had code words because we knew our emails were monitored.
Sure.
And we would talk that way, but we would know exactly what we were meaning without getting in trouble for it.
You were spies of the locker room talk.
And honestly, if people really wanted to decipher that, they probably could very easily, but...
Probably.
But they had plausible deniability by not knowing the code.
Yeah, Gruden...
Hey, we grew up on The Wire.
I didn't think Gruden was a patron saint to begin with, but I thought the guy was good enough as a face of everything that he's done that he probably wouldn't have done anything like he did, but he had to be fired.
He gets fired, then he gets fired. Sure.
Yeah.
And then you have the Tampa saying they're going to take his name out of the Ring of Honor.
Well, that's...
Cost him his legacy.
Yeah, that's...
I think he's, 58? I bet there's another accident in John Gruden's career.
Probably. I think so. Speaking of, and this wasn't even going to be my segue, but in my segue to throw it to Missy, one of the things I was going to talk about is on the way, since I did have that dark drive time this morning, I didn't have the luxury of watching it, but I did just turn on Dave Chappelle's The Closer, and I listened to that on the way up there today.
So that's my homework for our podcast for tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm saying you can have it if you want.
So you haven't watched it yet?
I have not watched it yet.
Is there a pickle on this?
So, no, it's great.
No. Okay.
It's a great beer. So I listened to it today.
Yeah.
And all the people that... One, here's how you know cancel culture is dumb. And here's how you know that the people that are screaming aren't really paying attention or reading what they're talking about. Same way, and we could bring it up with Superman, the new Superman. It's certainly Dean Cain is to blame there.
Wait, for Superboy being gay or whatever?
The problem is they say Superman's gay. Well, Jonathan Kent, Superman's son, is bi. It's not Superman. So Dean Cain coming out and go, it's ridiculous that they're making him gay. They're not making Superman that you know gay. Clark Kent's going to come back, and you're just going to have to deal with the fact that Superman has a gay son. Maybe you can get off on that or something.
Is this gay son going to come in the back? Hey, now.
Hey. But so Chappelle, everything they're bitching about, how this is anti-transgender, anti-LGBTQ, anti all of that. If you get past the first 10 minutes, he goes on to explain that his problem has always been with white people. And then, in typical Dave Chappelle fashion, and it's not a spoiler because I won't give you the punchline, he wraps it up in the sweetest pro-transgender story you'll ever hear a stand-up comic tell.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle's smarter than the people that are trying to cancel him. And he's funnier. I went and saw Hassan Minhaj with Missy recently, a month or so back. Hassan Minhaj, for those that don't know, was the Indian, which, if you don't know, is Asian. That is an Asian nationality. He was the one that was asked to do a stand-up session at the School of Asian Arts at some college. He told what I think is just a perfect joke. I think Hassan Minhaj is a great joke writer. He told a great joke, and I think we've told it on here before, but his joke was every day when he'd go get coffee, he passed by a gay black man that dressed in high heels, partially, and he goes, and knowing him as his friend, he can honestly tell you that being gay is not a choice because no one who was already black would also choose to be gay.
Yes.
That was his joke.
I've heard that joke.
So they canceled him. They tried to cancel him. They canceled the show. They cut him off mid-joke. said, you know, we don't want you. That's hate speak. It's not hate speak. It's a good fucking joke. So anyway, Hassan Minhaj, like when I'm bringing back to Dave Chappelle, when we got in there and sat down, Hassan Minhaj goes, I just wanted to let you guys know at some point I'm going to do crowd work. And when I do crowd work, you can talk. He goes, but please don't heckle before you do, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a better joke teller than you are at anything in your life. And he goes, and the way you know that is I'm up here and you paid to see me. So don't try to tell jokes. He goes, if it's funny when I talk to you, that'll be organic. We'll have a good time. But if you heckle, all you're doing is getting risk of getting kicked out. And it probably wasn't as funny as me. And I'm going to make it funny. And people are going to laugh at what I say at your expense. So Dave Chappelle, all these people criticizing Dave Chappelle and going in hard at him, they're just making him more rich. And it's at their expense because he's getting more material. Actually, and this is a spoiler warning, in fact, after I watched this, I was like, that guy's even fucking smarter than I thought, because it's his last contracted special with Netflix. And he goes, when I got this Netflix money, what I wanted to do is have a through line and an evolution of my stand-up specials on Netflix. And he goes, and this is the last one. That's why it's called The Closer. And he goes, and after this special, I'm not going to do any more jokes about LGBTQ or transgender people or anything. I'm done with it. He goes, this is it. So he essentially did one long stand-up special and broke it up into like 3 or 4 parts is what he did.
Yeah.
And there's one part in there that actually had me cringing, him about whooping this girl's ass in a club. And you can look it up. That's a real story. And he says, in my defense, I didn't know she was a woman at the time. And she came at me, hands thrown. So I had to, he goes, I slapped the titties off that dude. And he goes, it happened. But you got to watch it. It's well worth watching. I don't know if it's a 5 out of 5 because there's some pretty fucking great, even Chappelle stand-ups out there. But it's only because you're judging him against Chappelle's own stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens here in the next 6 months with him, because I believe one of the reasons he walked away from the Chappelle show was conservative white America was doing his impressions and the Rick James stuff, and he was like, oh, so the people that bothered me the most are worshiping me. You're already seeing that in Twitter, like conservative media is like, can you believe they're going after Dave Chappelle? He's a fucking American hero. I mean,
well, he certainly, in this also will let you know that he does not like conservative white America either.
Clearly, but conservative white America.
And he brings it up on this too, and he actually makes the best point because he goes after the Me Too movement. He said, I made a lot of enemies when I went after the Me Too movement. He goes, here's the problem with your movement. You're on the bus, but you really don't get anywhere by being on the bus. He goes, get off the bus and walk. He goes, I got off the bus and left $50 million on the bus. He goes, but I walked. He goes, if you really wanted to make a point, if you were these actresses in the Me Too movement, if you really wanted to make a point, fire all your representation and hire that woman that's working the mailroom to be you. Not only would you be a champion, you'd be lifting another woman up to your level and tell all these executives, I won't deal with you. You have to go through her. And he goes, they didn't do that. And that lets you know that, yeah, they probably were hurt. There was probably a problem. But also they didn't want to rock the boat in terms of their finances.
Absolutely.
And so he made a lot of great points. And he talked about, leaving, Comedy Central. And part of it was his Comedy Central, said they were going to pay him $50 million. He goes, but they had no intention of paying me the $50 million. It was a bad contract. It was a bad contract for me. And he goes, certainly they didn't expect to pay me. And that's why they never paid me. He goes, they never paid me for that show. He goes, but my black ass was paid now. And he starts the whole thing off. He goes, before everybody gets up in arms, things I'm about to say, let's know this. I'm very famous. I'm very, very rich. And it's the perspective it's coming from.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was great. The other thing I was going to tell you, and you guys, all your Throw It to Missy stuff we'll get to, is one of the main topics I was going to. I watched Wolfman's Got Nards recently. If you don't know what that is, that's the 2018 documentary on the movie Monster Squad, which is a seminal film in my world.
Loved it as a kid.
It tanked. It was a colossal failure at the box office.
Yeah, I mean, cool.
But to me, as a 10-year-old going and watching it, it didn't seem like it. It seemed like the biggest movie in the world.
I could probably count on 2 hands how many movies I saw multiple times in the theaters. That's one of them.
That's one of them for me, too. The documentary's really good. It's It's a love letter to the movie. It's a very sad look at some parts of the movie.
Is there anybody in that movie that like is known today, or
Not the bad guys, the monsters.
Okay.
But that's
Who?
because the monsters were established monster actors and names and
Like who's the most famous person that's in that movie?
Frank Stein, Tom Mooney's made a career out of being big giant monster guys and stuff. I mean, but that's what they were. You
Like
know,
how many of the kid actors ended up off themselves?
not a one of them. Not a one of them. So the guy that made the documentary was the leader of the Monster Squad. But it's very good. And it's a 5 out of 5. I suggest in fact, I watched it. Now I'm going to go watch the Monster Squad. In fact, I may one day, when I have a rainy day or something, I may watch them both again in the same day.
Is the
together.
Monster Squad? Is it on like Netflix or Amazon Prime?
Amazon Prime for free.
Ooh, okay.
Is it? When was the last time you watched it?
I have the Blu-ray and I watch it every year for Halloween. I just haven't done it yet this year.
7-year-old, 4-year-old appropriate?
It's a good question because they talk about that in the documentary. There's some very scary scenes in it.
Yeah.
And so let's tie this back to what my next Throw It to Missy topic was. Thanks to Two Bears, One Cave with Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, Bert recommended a podcast called the Confused Breakfast Podcast. I love it. That's what made me go dive into the Monster Squad and Wolfman's Got Nards. What they do is take a movie from your childhood, break it down, and really go into detail. And they get some of the celebrities from these movies to talk on it. Or they'll do like the greatest fall movies of all time, but their last episode was the Monster Squad. And as they're breaking it down and they tell you some of the stuff, it's not kid appropriate per se. It certainly was, back to your point about the difference in the time frames of...
Because when did that come out? 90?
Oh, 87.
Oh, fuck. I was like 6.
I was 10.
Definitely saw it in the theaters.
Yeah, it was 87.
Is it PG?
No, because it's got the words bitch, it's got faggot, it's got all that stuff in it. Huh. And it's one of those movies where, like, it's over time, its metric score and Rotten Tomato score keeps going up. Now,
literally all I remember from that movie is Wolfman's Got Nards and Frankenstein does a face turn. That's like all I remember from that movie.
And Wizard Magazine, something very close to our heart.
Yeah.
Back when they had a big top 100 villains of all time list, I think number 36 was Dracula. And they call the guy that played Dracula from that movie, the greatest Dracula performance of all time. And Entertainment Weekly and IGN both say he's in the top 3 of greatest on-screen Draculas we've ever seen.
Wow.
And they watched it. He's pretty goddamn good.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna have to watch that with the kids.
Yeah, you watch it. Yeah.
Just know there is some scary moments. There is some language. There is some things like when he picks up Phoebe, who's probably the star of the show, and hey, quit being pussies, guys, and picks her up and hisses at her and says, "You bitch." She didn't know that was coming, and it scared the shit out of her. They had to retake it, do the scene over, because her scream was so natural that she lost all her breath.
So she's trying to be like, so it was like Halloween Goonies? Is that what they were trying to go for?
So the reason people didn't go see it, they paint a picture on why people were calling it a Goonies ripoff. And these guys on the Confused Breakfast podcast draw you a really good reason why it's not a Goonies ripoff. They say that Goonies is a story written about kids from adults. They say this movie's told from the perspective of what it was like to be a kid in the 80s. And Goonies doesn't capture that as well as this. And so there was a mic drop performance, or like the main guy in it has a little mic drop moment in the documentary where he goes, Goonies is certainly a great movie. He goes, I love Goonies. They saved their town. We saved the whole world.
That's great.
And it's much darker than Goonies overall. Yeah. I mean, there's they're killing people are killing monsters, and people die. And it's written by Shane Black.
Yeah.
And he wrote this before he wrote Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon was fast-tracked, and there's some cool moments in the movie.
Wait, the guy who wrote Monster Squad wrote Lethal Weapon?
Yeah.
Well, that's like fucking great.
Shane Black wrote everything. Everything.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah. Directed it.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily something I'd hang my hat on, but...
No, did he not, or did he direct 3?
You might have done 3.
3. He did 3.
Yeah.
Overrated, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Underrated, Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
No, they're both awesome Christmas movies. But anyway, so Shane Black, and so by the way, their house in Monster Squad is across the street from Murtaugh's house in Lethal Weapon. And the movies were made at the same time. So property value in that neighborhood had to go down. You had an explosion, shootout, and Dracula throwing dynamite.
And Gary Busey having a fight in a front lawn. I mean, during a sprinkler. Yeah, that was bad.
So for me, 5 out of 5 for Monster Squad if you've never seen it, and there's kids today that don't know it. And 5 out of 5 for this documentary, Wolfman's Got Nards, which brings me to my last throw to Missy is I didn't know where to find it. It's free on Tubi. Tubi is a free service.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just got to watch commercials.
Okay.
But that's it.
Yeah.
I signed up for it today just to watch this documentary, or yesterday to watch this documentary, and that was it. And so I watched it, and I was like, now there's all kinds of shit on Tubi I'm going to watch.
There you go.
What do you got, Jay?
So I watched a couple movies. Love and Monsters from 2020. It's on Netflix. It's some kind of nuclear event happens and all the animals on Earth become monsters, and people have to live underground.
I remember that. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was about a kid that has to get, 80 miles to get to the girl he loves. And it had a vibe kind of like Shaun of the Dead. Wasn't as good.
I thought you were going to say Some Kind of Wonderful since it was...
Some kind of wonderful.
It's okay. I mean...
I recently watched...
2.5 out of 5?
I recently watched Operation Rainfall on Netflix.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Was it better or worse than Operation Dumbo Drop?
Worse. And it's got Dr. Kim in it. Ken Jeong.
Yeah.
Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
I didn't want to confuse him with a Korean dictator. But it's it looks like a movie that was written to be a 3-part epic, sci-fi, but they realized that no one was going to greenlight it as a big studio, so it's got bad special effects, and it's awful. He's the highlight of it. Him and the alien that is his partner. Because in this world that's fallen apart, in this alien-invaded world, he's what's left of the American government, and he likes to remind people that he's what's left of it. And he's funny. He's genuinely funny in it. And his alien sidekick, who only knows how to speak English from watching TV, which has been done before.
Yes, it has.
But it's funny. The rest of the movie, really bad. And I recommended Grizzly Maze.
Yeah.
And this is bad.
Yeah. So the other one I watched was called Beautiful Boy from 2018.
I don't know what that is.
Remember that
Oh,
one.
no, I do know what that is.
Steve Carell and
Yeah, is that good?
oh, it was depressing.
He's got drug problems or something, right?
His son does.
That's
And
what
it's
I mean.
Timothy Chalamet from Dune.
So
Who does? You know, I'll tell you what. Timothy Chalamet came in there and was like, "Hey, you want to make out?" I'd be like,
So you guys are
"I'll do some
wrong.
heavy petting."
It's Timothy.
Timothy. No.
And I can tell you this because next to Harry Styles, I might have the biggest Timothy Chalamet fan in the world, and my daughter loves everything he's in. He allows Americans to say Timothy because we can't pronounce it the right way.
Well, good thing she's not listening.
Right?
To
If she can hear through this, she's cursing right now.
you might be.
Isn't he doing Willy Wonka?
A prequel,
Yes,
and
he
he
is.
looks creepy cool as
He
Willy
does.
Wonka.
He's Johnny Depp.
He looked
He is
exactly
100% Johnny Depp.
And he looked exactly like this kid from the story, because this is based on 2 books. The father wrote a book about dealing with a son with addiction.
And then the kid wrote a book of how much of a dick his dad was. No, I'm just kidding.
I'd watch
I'd
watch
read
that.
both of those books.
He wrote it from the perspective of the addict, and they merged them together for the movie.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I went and read about it after the
And
fact.
when Steve Carell does a serious role, I enjoy it. Flags of Our Father was good. What's that one where...
He's a dick stepdad.
Which one's that?
The one where like the kid is a stepson works the water park for the summer.
Oh, that's great.
That's a good movie.
That's the way back.
That way back is a good
You
movie.
know, that's good because...
Sam, what's his face?
that too, but because it was written by the dean from Community and Jim Rash.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Who they also won an Oscar for doing the one with George Clooney, the Descendants.
yeah.
They're a great writing pair.
Way back. Good movie.
Yeah. But this one was depressing because you kept seeing this kid, like you think he's going to get straight finally, and then he relapses again.
Jim Rash. And,
Spoiler alert, he dies, doesn't he?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's good.
He
See?
lived to write a book.
Yeah. Well, and at the time the movie was made, he'd been sober for like 5 years.
All right. Well,
So
There was a movie that the one Steve Carell I'm thinking of is one where his wife is deceased, but he's the dad of these girls, and they all get together for a family weekend with a whole bunch of the family. I think Dane Cook is in it. His brother. It's a pretty good movie, and he's very serious in it, and it's a great movie. He's just good. He's like a little bit of Robin Williams. When he pulls off a good serious role, he's very good in it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Robin Williams, did you see that test footage? Spooky.
I heard about it, but I haven't
Very
seen
good.
it yet.
There's an actor that a few years ago made really big news by doing a great Robin Williams impression. Well, yesterday he released what he called it the Robin Williams test script footage, because he's really wanting to he wants to be Robin Williams in a biopic, and it's of a scene from the trailer of Mork and Mindy where he finds out that Jim Belushi had died. And he was with him the night before, and he is Robin Williams. He's playing Robin Williams in the scene. It is so spot on, and you buy into what it would be. And it's only about 5 minutes. He put it online yesterday, and it's got like 2.5-3 million views.
Wow,
already.
good for him.
He's single-handedly trying to get this movie made just by showing people how good he is as Robin Williams.
Rewatch Blade.
The original.
Yes. Doesn't hold up.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy it.
I did too.
Especially that opening scene.
Oh, the opening scene was amazing, but Madeline fell asleep. Will didn't care for it. Kaylee was the only one into it. So
I could see kids these days liking the second Blade better.
Yeah.
And I love the second Blade.
What's Wesley Snipes' best movie?
Rising Sun's pretty fucking good with...
White Men Can't Jump.
White Men Can't Jump is
You
it.
guys are both wrong.
What is it?
Well, you may hit it like Willie, but you run like Willie, but you hit like shit.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one too, but I don't consider that just a Wesley Snipes movie. White Men Can't Jump, him and Woody Harrelson are fucking great in that. But those are both great movies. Rising Sun is a super underrated movie with him and Sean Connery.
I'm sure I told this story on the podcast before, the Rising Sun story.
The time you ate sushi off a stripper?
No, better than that. So
the time you ate sushi off of me?
That would be hot.
Yeah.
Yums.
Get a little hair in your sushi, I'm going to tell you right now.
So I'm pretty sure I've told the story on the podcast before, but I was in 6th grade when the movie came out. I read The Firm.
Yeah.
And my parents saw The Firm, and my mom said that I couldn't see it because there's a scene where Tom Cruise takes a girl's bra off and you see her bare back. So I was like devastated because I love The Firm. It's
he does do that in the movie.
Yeah. Still fantastic.
He also runs.
Yeah.
Fantastic book.
Was bareback that much of a taboo in your household?
Oh, it gets. I'm gonna tell the story. I'll tell the story. So I was crushed. I was like, oh man, I really want to see it because I've always just I'm still to this day a Tom Cruise.
So you're 4 years younger than me.
So I'm in 6th grade.
And yeah, because I was 15 when The Firm came out. I went and saw it at the Lamar Drive-In.
Yeah. So I'm probably 12. So I'm crestfallen, and then Rising Sun comes out around the same time, and I had read a couple of Michael Crichton books. I had not read Rising Sun, and my mom's like, well, why don't you go take Tommy to see Rising Sun?
Well, they've made him really swing and a miss on that one, parents.
First time, it was the second time I saw boobs. Under Siege was the first time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, Rising Sun's like a whole different level.
Two very good boob
So,
scenes.
it's just like, I'm 12 years old, tent in my pants. My dad is, very uncomfortable, I'm sure. So we get home. And I'm on cloud 9, and it's a sexual awakening, if you will. And my mom goes, "How's the movie?" And my dad just deadpans as he walks to get the scotch. Pretty sure Tom can see The Firm now.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a swing and a miss on Mom's part right there.
That's why he's Larry the Legend.
I love The Firm as a movie too. It's been on a lot on Showtime lately, and I watch it every time it's on.
Tom Cruise, total weirdo, makes good movies.
Yeah, he does.
Last thing, I've been watching Wu-Tang and American Saga season 2.
Is that good? I love the documentary, but I can't pull the trigger on the
I love this show, and this season is when the group gets together, but they're pulling homage from everywhere. So there was an episode with Raekwon and Ghostface Killer where they're reenacting The Killers, John Woo's movie.
Okay, yeah.
And
his
in the
first
church,
American movie too, yeah.
Them in the church shooting everyone. They just pull a bunch of kind of oddball scenes in that kind of really worked for the show.
Well, and that's very much Rizzo loves Japanese filmmaking and John Woo, and the killers, I believe, was Chow Yun-fat and Maria Sorvina.
Yes. No.
Maria.
That was Replacement Killers.
Replacement, that's right. The Killers, that's right, even older.
Yeah.
Replacement Killers is a great movie, too.
It was.
Yeah.
Replacement Killer sounds like a terrible Killers cover band.
That's right. But what's cool is if you were
Mr.
an Asian
Downside.
group that wanted to do a cover band for the Killers, Replacement Killers would be a very meta name.
It would be.
Considering you're already Japanese.
I thought we already decided it's 2021. We probably shouldn't go down that path.
Yeah, we've really stepped over boundaries this way. You got anything for Throw It to Missy?
Well, I don't listen to the show anymore because I am not a regular cast member. But did we talk?
You're like the Pete Davidson of our show.
I can't have been fired.
Every once in a while, you just come back and hit a home run
Yeah,
on
right,
Weekend Update.
Quick thing about Pete Davidson. So Kim Kardashian did Saturday Night Live on Saturday.
I haven't watched it yet.
I watched it.
Fine.
I watched it.
That fucking show's done 3 Aladdin and Jasmine carpet skits in like the last 8 years. I'm like, I think I've seen this skit before. And I was like, oh yeah, it was Kylo Ren and Cecily Strong or whatever her name is. And they did one. It was way funnier. Anyway, did we talk Many Saints of Newark?
Not yet. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
You can talk about it, though. The kid, from the trailer, the kid looked awesome.
Okay, well, all right. So first off, Michael Gandolfini is fantastic in it. I give it 3 out of 5. But it's not really a Tony story. Tony's only in it like 15 minutes.
And that's back when what's his name, David Hyde, or what was the name of the guy that created, not David,
Michael Chase? David Chase?
David Chase, that's it, David Chase. Back when he originally said he was going to make this, he said it's not a Tony story, so don't expect that.
Yeah.
But the problem is they casted James Gandolfini's son, which really puts a lot of steam behind Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tony's in most of the movie. There's another child actor who plays Tony when he's like 11. But every scene he's in,
so he's got the chops to be a good actor.
He's got the chops. He had his dad's mannerisms down. He talks like they kind of tease it where after it ends, how's Tony going to get in the mob life? What's his first few years in the mob life going to be? I want to watch that show.
Yeah.
Sequel movie.
Yeah, this was a classic. If this was drawn out over 8 episodes, I would have cared about Dickie Moltisanti more.
Yeah.
I didn't. The actress who played Tony's mom was fantastic. She nailed the role. Your mileage may vary on the actors who play Sylve and play Paulie, who play the other characters you come to know and love.
Yeah.
There's a little too much winking meta stuff from people who love The Sopranos. Like, hey, remember at the time when they told you that Johnny Boy shot Liv through her B hairdo? Oh, we got that. Does Junior say never has the makings of varsity athlete? Oh, yes, he does. I mean, a little too much winking at the audience, but I give it a 3 out of 5. Honestly, if
3 out of 5 is a good watchable show.
I think I gotta be honest. If I had watched it at home on HBO Max, it may have been a 2 out of 5. But
Okay.
it was my first time back in the movie
you went to
theater,
movie theaters.
and being back in that familiarity was pretty cool. And look, I'm a Sopranos mark, so I'm gonna give it a little bit extra.
As am I.
Yeah.
It's fun. You mentioned going to the movie to see it. We did learn this past couple weeks that movies are not quite back. And because James Bond did not perform as well in the theater as everybody expected it to perform.
How are the reviews of the movie though?
Really, they say it's not the best Bond movie, but it's a good finale for Daniel Craig.
Okay.
Which is fine.
Sure.
But what this tells me is that
Second best Bond?
Daniel Craig, man, I think there's a very good argument that he might be the best Bond.
I read a theory the other day that Sean Connery is James Bond in The Rock. And I
read that too. That was one of 2 awesome fan theories I've read in the last couple weeks. The other one being Kiefer Sutherland's character.
Like you were going to tell us.
Kiefer Sutherland's character from Stand By Me is actually the vampire from Lost Boys. After he exits the movie Stand By Me and goes down the coast, gets turned into a vampire, and he's been living down there in Santa Cruz for that amount of time.
Isn't Kiefer's brother one of the 4 characters in Stand By Me though? Isn't River Phoenix's brother?
No, he's one of the other gang members in the group. I thought that too until I watched it recently. He's one of the.
Stand by me. Hold up.
It's awesome.
We're gonna watch it soon because Madeline just read the story.
4 Past Midnight.
Yeah.
It's in there.
The body. Yeah.
The body. Yeah.
You know what?
4 seasons.
That's 4 seasons. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You know my favorite Stephen King / Richard Bachman book that's never the Walk, I think it's called.
I've not read that. I got to
No.
get through the one I'm reading now. I stopped. Now I got to go back to it.
Billy Summers.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah. I'm about 5 chapters in, and I love it so far.
I finished it today. It was amazing.
I just forgot I had it. I set it on my nightstand and got busy and forgot I had it.
Stephen King struggles with the ending of books, but this one was really good.
Don't have to tell this guy read the Dark Tower. It's like, what the fuck was that?
Wolves of Kala and
well,
yeah.
what was it? It was fucking good.
That's okay. It's okay. The actual
Look, I love wrestling, so of course when he brings out the Seeker, I'm gonna fucking mark it out like a little bit.
but anyway, so back to what you were saying. I think I was going to say something else, but anyway, I thought those were cool, both cool fan theories.
Yeah.
I can't even remember where you were going on the fan. What was the other fan theory you just brought up?
The Bond thing?
Back to
Yeah.
Bond. So the target demographic for Bond is
Our parents?
35 and older white men, maybe even 40 and older. Apparently, they're not ready to go back to the movies yet. That's what they found out. Because the Marvel movies are making money when they go in the theater.
Yeah.
But that's everybody.
My 71-year-old mom went to the movie theaters, saw the first James Bond movie.
The very first one?
This is the first one she's seen.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait, she's never seen any other James Bond
No.
movies? Okay.
Back to what you said, though. It's Sean Connery and Daniel Craig, right?
Yeah.
And Daniel Craig's movies as a whole are really goddamn good. Sean Connery had some good ones, but there were also some movies that you go back and rewatch them and like, maybe they were good for the time.
Sure.
Pierce Brosnan's close because he
Way
just
underrated.
He carried himself all the time as James Bond. I felt.
Timothy Dalton,
Those movies was bad, though.
Yeah, I don't know
good.
if that was his fault though.
they did have the line that looks like Christmas is going to come twice this year.
Yes. And
That's the greatest line in all of life.
I watched that again with Larry the Legend, and I look at him, and he looks at me and go, I think we're done with the Bond movies. Seen them together. Yeah. Been a good run.
That's the best Bond line of all time.
Fuck my dad. I love my dad, but like we watched Many Saints of Newark together, and like I'm like, and I can't say it because it'll spoil it. And I say it like about a character being a son of a bitch. My dad's like, why? I'm like, well, he did this. He's like, oh, I didn't pick up on that. I'm like, what's your comprehension in a movie? Like it was very clear. Like it was very clear that this person did this that caused this. Like,
We got it.
oh, I'm like, yeah.
Do we got anything else to talk about?
Well, your St. Louis Blues
I was going to
starting
throw
on
it to
Saturday.
you on that.
Oh, okay. Well, before that, then, I think my fantasy football team is going to prison pound everybody in our league this year.
I lost by scoring 171 points.
Wait, can I
this
still
past
say
week.
prison pound? Is that a 2021 term? That
I think that's
fine still.
Prison, yeah.
Okay.
You didn't bring any race or colors into it, so
I barely beat you.
by 1 point.
I think I. But you
This
have
past week.
But you have the team that I've always had in this league where you're 1-4. Does that sound correct?
Yes, I am.
And you're at like point totals like the third highest.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like my story in this league.
I scored
I feel
171
your pain.
this week, and I lost to a guy that scored 204. Had I played my maximum lineup, I would have scored 201.
So my team was hurt because McCaffrey has been
Yeah.
out the last 2 weeks, and that's
CMC.
killed my points.
He's coming
total 'cause
back,
I was
though.
right there with you.
He's
yeah,
coming back. Anything can happen, man. It's your young
that's why I
league.
hate fantasy football.
Yeah, but you brought up where I was going to throw it to you is that it is the Blues are coming back, and they have an 18-year-old, 19-year-old
Jake Neighbors, who was a
friendly neighborhood hockey player.
So Jake Neighbors was selected 2 years ago in the first round by the Blues. A lot of experts said, I don't know about this kid. He's more of a second-round pick. He is basically a David Backus type player. But
Not a
Greg
bad-
Berube likes the grit.
Yeah.
And this kid has made the team based off that grit.
David
So he'll-
Backus, not a bad comparison
No,
for St. Louis
argument,
Blues.
one of my favorite Blues of all time. So how it works in the NHL is he's got 10.
9 or 10.
I believe it's 9. That
I
sounds
think
right.
9 is all they can do. Once he gets to 10,
Yeah,
Then
and so
they-
they'll have to send it. If he doesn't do that, they'll have to send him back to his junior team. I think if they're going to give this kid a look, they'll keep him on the roster, and we'll go from there. So, shout out to our friends at the One Cup
Yeah,
Two Guys podcast.
Two guys, one cup.
I am in their fantasy league again this year. Hopefully, representing the podcast well. Last year, I took the silver home. Hopefully, this year I can take the gold home.
The last thing I will talk about sports-wise is there was a good article written about Adam Wainwright today.
Apparently, he killed it.
How Adam Wainwright did something that no one thought was possible and make every single person that watches a baseball broadcast fall in love with the announcer.
Yeah.
Or the play-by-play guy.
Hard not to love the old Wayno.
Yeah, somebody, a lot of people are saying the rest of the country's finding out what we've known for 15 years. Adam Wainwright's just a swell guy. The Richie Cunningham of baseball.
Yep.
He really is.
Yeah, so on that note, season starts Saturday.
Let's go blue.
Bye.
You guys just nailed it.
You need a better tagline. We got to work on that.
Yeah, we got to work on it.
Goodbye, not a good goodbye tagline.